The project that the hemp pod is a fundamental part of is a three-year project which is funded by DEFRA, the Department of Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, a UK government institution, and supported by various industrial partners because they believe in the potential for this. And here's the inside of the hemp pod. You can see we've got sensors on the walls, on all four walls. The whole theory behind the construction is to allow it to breathe. So you don't want to be putting impervious materials in the wall. So anything, you don't want to put plastics or seal it up. That's one of the problems with a lot of modern houses. They try and seal them and you get this awful sort of sick building syndrome.
Sick building syndrome is caused by the materials in our houses. These materials are made of all kinds of chemicals, which we breathe and touch continually, making us sick, even though we may have no idea why.
House, in any style you wish, it can look like a very organic, natural shape, or it can be very square and straight lines and very functional as what most people would expect.
A few years ago, I set up a company called HAB, Happiness Architecture Beauty, as a development company. And we're finishing this scheme in about 2 or 3 weeks' time. It's a scheme of about 42 homes called The Triangle, designed by a wonderful award-winning British architect, Glenn Howells. Project manager here on site said to me he loved the material because we'd had this lorry reversing on site, a big cement mixing lorry. Instead of pouring out heavy, wet, toxic, caustic concrete, it would instead pour out this sort of fluffy, lightweight stuff that looks like sawdust. It didn't require any power tools. So all we had was buckets and barrows and blokes. And because there are no power tools, there are no cables everywhere. And it actually makes for a very, very healthy, very safe building site. My great difficulty is that every new scheme we're building 7 now. I look at the range of materials out there. I cannot find one to match hemp.
Once it's built into the building, it's fire resistant, it is a good thermal resistance, and it's good for the living environment. There's a drive in the UK and in Europe to reduce carbon emissions in construction, and construction contributes well over half of all carbon emissions. The actual building of a building is 9% of the carbon emissions. The running of a building is 42% of the carbon emissions globally. So if we can reduce the carbon emissions in the building, and if we can reduce the carbon emissions in the running of the house, we're going to make a very significant contribution to carbon reduction in the UK and worldwide.
This is 50% of oil goes into plastics. It's not just about stopping driving cars or decreasing our reliance on petrol for transport. Plastics is a major problem, and that's why the hemp plastic sides, the hemp biocomposites, one of the most exciting things that we can possibly be looking at the moment.
Our business is all about processing hemp. Hemp is grown under contract for us by local farmers. We take the crop in and split it into its constituent parts. This is how hemp fibre is used in the automotive industry. This is a car door panel for a BMW 3 Series car. The use of natural fibres in these applications reduces the car's weight by a couple of kilos, and that all helps towards reducing fuel consumption. The automotive industry and animal bedding business markets are the largest part of our business. We expect the construction industry to grow rapidly over the next few years. In fact, within 4 or 5 years, we see that overtaken to be maybe 70 to 80% of our business.
I've been designing for full-time for about 3 years. I am pregnant. I am almost 7 months now. I just find myself thinking about him and how I want to raise him so protected, I think, you know, protected from chemicals and just show him a different way. People go and they buy some mass-produced t-shirt that has been dyed and has, you know, chemicals on it, and they put it on their body or on their baby, and it's going into you. Our skin is the largest organ on our body, and there are chemicals used in clothing to process fibers and fabric, and the dyeing is very toxic. And I've had clients specifically come to me because of that. They're allergic to dyes used in regular clothing, and they need something that's either a natural dye or not dyed at all.
I'm one of the founders of Brahma Murray, and we make food from hemp seed. We're also one of the largest hemp farmers in Europe. We were looking for some sustainable farming options. Hemp, on paper, came out as there were growing markets for it in a world where people were more aware of the environment and more aware of the choices they made about the things they buy. We felt hemp had a big role to play in that. There's 16 different varieties in the European Union that are approved for growing. They all have completely different qualities, maturity times, benefits and disadvantages. We use about 3 of them for food, and that's governed by taste. The plant also has this fantastic root structure, which is really, really good for the soil. This is left in the ground at the end of the life of the plant, and it returns a lot of organic matter to the topsoil. It helps with drainage.
The nice thing about hemp, it grows on marginal land. We can also use it as a phytoremediation crop, sorting out land that was damaged in the past, using hemp to pull out the heavy metals, to pull out some of the pollution, and getting that land back to the state we need it in to provide us with food.
I've been managing farms in the southeast for 20 years now. 2 or 3 years ago, I started growing hemp. And a year ago, Hemp Technology asked me to come on board with them and act as like a bridge between the factory and the grower to improve logistics and improve the quality of the crop and recruit new growers. We like having hemp as a break crop because it's a very good natural break for weeds and pests and diseases. And because hemp is sown in May, it fits very well after an overwintered fallowed break. To cut the seed from this crop, we just use a conventional combine harvester and just cut the seed heads off. That's the only specialist equipment that's needed, and that's provided by contractors in the UK. If the crop's for fibre, there'll be no pesticides used at all. If the crop's a seed crop, we will apply diquat, which is a desiccant to kill off the stems after we've harvested the seed. So the seed itself has no pesticides on. So it's quite a low-risk, low-cost crop. Once you can get somebody trying the crop, they'll very often then grow it year after year after year because they realise the benefits. It's quite a profitable crop, particularly if you go for the dual crop and you're harvesting the seed as well. A margin on this field of somewhere in the region of £200 an acre, £500 a hectare. For the fibre crop, if you then take the seed crop on top, which adds another £300 an acre, you're getting up towards £800.
Used hemp seed oil since the ancient Egyptians as a nutritional supplement. When Glyn and I started growing hemp,
We made a television series about this project, and we went off and planted a field of hemp and over 12 or 14 weeks watched it grow to 4 meters tall. And it was next to a power station, which was rather neat. So, and the trains went by and the motorway went by, and you saw the plumes of smoke coming out of the chimneys of the power station. You thought, this field of hemp is absorbing all the CO2 and dirt, and we're going to build houses with it. So for me, there's a sort of tremendous excitement in the pioneering notion of using this material.
There's been a lot of talk about sustainability, but sustaining what we are doing at the moment on the planet is probably not possible. So it's more a question of resilience building, if we're really honest. We have to prepare for the type of shocks that just might happen. The systems we have built to exist on this world at the moment are very sophisticated, but very frail because of that. And what has happened in Japan recently and what is happening in America as we speak shows how our systems are very vulnerable to nature. So we should really be thinking of working with nature, and hemp provides us with the most perfect tools to do that.